Welcome to this Tin Dog podcast reviewing the Christmas special for the 2007 story Voyage of the Damned. According to Wikipedia, Voyage of the Damned is an episode of the British science fiction television series Doctor Who. It is 71 minutes long and was broadcast on BBC One at 6:50 on the 25th of December 2007. It is the third Christmas special of the revived Doctor Who series by Russell T Davies, and the first episode to be made available for free on the internet by the BBC iPlayer service. You know, that's kind of it really. That's all I really want to say about it. I didn't like it. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of people listening to the Tin Dog podcast out there who think, you know, I'm really looking forward to finding out what, the host has to say about it and what his thoughts are. But to be honest, I just wasn't that impressed. It wasn't a bad episode. It wasn't, Love and Monsters or something. But it just wasn't fabulous. Now, I know a lot of people worked exceptionally hard on this. The design was marvellous, and you just know that any review that starts, well, the design was marvellous, isn't going to be a great review. It started badly. It started badly mainly because they've messed about with the music. Here's the introduction of the music. As you can hear from that, they've done a whole 70s retro drum and bassy type thing going on over the ordinary music, or they've remixed it or something. I do hope that like the experimental Delaware version that was used in the John Pertwee period for one story, this is never heard again. Then it becomes an oddity and something people have to track down to enjoy, as opposed to something that's forced upon us all the way through Series 4. I'm not fond. I'm sorry, they did a perfectly good job of the new series music. They don't have to revamp it again. Revamping it per Doctor makes more sense. So if you're going to do something like this, hang on till, we're tenantless. So what didn't I like about Voyage of the Damned? Well, I'd love to be able to sum it up in one word. That word, if it was just one word, would be the word Kylie. Now, for you American listeners, you haven't been subjected to Kylie Minogue for long, long periods of your own life. She's not my favourite actress. As an actress, she's a good singer, and as a singer, she's a good actress. That does indeed sound a bit glib, but I'm just not a big fan. I don't hold with stars being brought on board just to try and boost ratings. People were going to watch this anyway. It was Christmas Day. I know that almost 15 million people watch this, which means you have to have Doctor Who that's accessible to the non-Doctor Who fans. And this is a review from a Doctor Who fan. I understand that, it's a Christmas special, it's for the kids. Dangerous talk saying, it's for the kids. Because the kids don't like watching things that are for the kids, if you see what I mean. Perhaps it has more to do with the fact that I was expecting something slightly different. Perhaps I was just hoping for something slightly different. I was hoping for the actual Titanic. I was hoping for the much vaunted 8th Doctor crossover story. That would have been so nice to happen, but obviously we weren't going to get that one after just having Time Crash. I did want it to happen on board the Titanic, and also because the Titanic sailed in, I believe, June, it wouldn't be a Christmas-based episode. I don't like stories based just at Christmas that are only on at Christmas, if you see what I mean. One of my favourite Doctor Who Christmas stories was episode 2 of the 2005 season, which didn't take place at Christmas at all from a viewer's point of view. but it did from an audience's point of view. Did I say episode 2? I meant episode 3. You know what I mean. Sometimes you get episode 1 and 2 back to back, sometimes you don't. Oh, it's fine. The Charles Dickens one. Doctor Who often lifts things from other sources. Not a problem. Nothing I've got huge issues with. There was the obvious Westworld references. There was plundering of its own history and the robots of death being robots that were gold, that kill people. But then again, every single robot in Doctor Who kills people. There isn't a robot out there, I don't think, that has obeyed its programming and not killed people. You would think people might learn. And of course, there is the 5th Doctor story, Enlightenment, which nowadays I love, but as a child I thought was just wrong because I didn't understand sailing ships in space. There were references to other things. There were references to the Hitchhiker's Guide, which was an obvious thing on the grounds that Douglas Adams and Terry Jones had together produced a book and game called Starship Titanic, which again was a reference to something in one of Adams's earlier works. I'm sure you can track that down somewhere. I for one would like to reread it. I have it somewhere, I will try and dig it out. One of the truly redeeming features of this story, however, was Bernard Cribbins. Now, for American viewers, they may not know Bernard, but if you're a Doctor Who fan, you may have come across him in the Daleks' Invasion of Earth movie with Peter Cushing, which just confuses matter, because in those films, the Doctor is a human being. I will review those if people want me to later on, but they're not exactly canon or accepted history, they're just nice bits of fun. Cribbins, however, is a great actor. And he did appear to be in his own show, just being better than everyone else. Now, if you're partaking in, of course, Subtext Watch, and for those of you who need to know what I'm talking about, visit Outpost Gallifrey, we have, of course, the very obvious Hello Sailor, and the references to cyborgs. I think you can lay on subtext just a little bit too thick. When Kylie's going, yes, cyborgs can marry these days, and we're all knowing exactly what she's really talking about. We know all this. Of course the cyborg part was needed for later on in the plot so that, the man who was half Davros, half great architect could just turn up and, be the villain. But he wasn't that important and he wasn't that excited or excitable or exciting. He was just a head in a box. And then Kylie dies and I'm quite pleased, and then they try and bring her back using something from Blake 7, and I wasn't impressed. The flying angels were pointless, lots of other things were just wrong. It got to a point where I actually started thinking, with my podcasts, what I might do is just stick to reviewing classic series. I might not bother doing New Doctor Who, because it's just a little bit depressing me, and I don't want to be down on the series. I want to love it. I don't ever want to get into a position where we were in 80s fandom, where the fans weren't saying great things, but other people were watching it, and it was still being quite healthy, and you understand, don't you? Some of you remember what it was like when fans were saying bad things about the series. Look, it wasn't awful. It just wasn't my cup of tea. I'd really, really like the next Christmas special, if we get one, not to be set at Christmas at all, or set it in a different period, or, heaven knows, another planet. Do you remember other planets? We used to go to them a lot. Not recently, I'll grant you that, but, it's possible. Or Christmas on the moon. We've been to the moon, we can go there again. That's all right, isn't it? One of the things I did have issues with, however, was and I'm going to use the word fat, the fat people in it. Now, I think the woman was from Titty Titty Bang Bang, which is a series on BBC Three, and I'm not sure where the gentleman was from. And they'd apparently got into huge amounts of debt in order to try and win a competition. Now, for those of you who live in England, if you're aware of phone-in competitions and the amount of debt you can get in, what you can do, and possibly, in the future on an alien world, is phone up Richard and Judy and ask for your money back, or GMTV. So they didn't have to commit suicide or kill themselves. So was it Russell's way of saying fat people should kill themselves? I just don't know. Perhaps that's a bit of subtext we can go into another time. That kind of wraps up this review of Voyage of the Damned. Not a huge fan. It was acceptable. It just wasn't my cup of tea. The trailer for Season 4 also didn't really inspire me. There would just seem to be lots and lots of ood. I am still looking forward to Series 4. Tell you what, I'll go now. Torchwood will be along soon. Now, at the moment, because I've obviously been inundated by emails, I have 2 votes for Tobias Lumick being the Torchwood correspondent, and 1 vote for me being the correspondent for Torchwood. I'll wait on some more votes before we decide, but remember, there's only 1 vote in it so far. Be seeing you. You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.